Hello and welcome to HomeTech. HomeTech is a podcast dedicated to discovering new and emerging technologies for the home. We discuss news about the Internet of Things, home automation, and more. I'm Seth Johnson in Florida, and I'm joined by Jason Griffin in Los Angeles. Welcome to HomeTech. I'm Seth Johnson, joined by Jason. Jason, how's it going?
It's going great, Seth. How are you?
Doing well. So getting hot here, Sarasota.
Yeah, it's been a scorcher here, actually. Yeah, very unseasonably warm.
Global warming and whatnot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the market's heating up too, so we're so slammed right now. It's unbelievable. So it's a good thing, I guess. Work is work.
Yeah, absolutely. It's for now actually annually, or I guess I should say traditionally, this time of year is actually a slow time of year for us for whatever reason. We're not really sure. So we're enjoying a little bit of a break here, and things typically pick back up for us, June or July. So this is kind of the calm before the storm right now, I suppose.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, it's kind of I guess where it's the opposite. Like we're just about to get into the summer's the slow season here. So everybody goes back up north or must go over to LA.
Yeah, it's interesting how it kind of varies by region like that.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, we've got a couple things some big news items to hit this week.
Yeah, there's a lot going on this week, definitely. Before we jump into that, we've also got a great feature that we're going to talk about on this episode, where we're going to kind of compare like professionally installed home automation systems versus the sort of do-it-yourself brands, and then there's kind of those hybrids in the middle, almost like that are sort of I call them prosumer, or like the hobbyist platforms. And I think it's kind of an area for confusion for a lot of people about really what differentiates those systems from one another. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. But I think before we even jump into the news, I just wanted to let people know that if they enjoy this episode, they can find more episodes, obviously, at HomeTech.fm. We're also listed in a group of technology podcasts at Technology.fm, so people can find us over there, and we'd love to have them stop by the website. And also, if they have a minute, just pop over to iTunes and leave us a review. We would really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So this week, kind of today, I guess, huge news coming from Microsoft. That looks like they're teaming up with Insteon, and they came out with some kind of home automation product.
Yeah, it was an interesting story. It actually just broke today, like a few hours before we were recording this is when I saw it first come across. And, everybody obviously knows who Microsoft is, but for people listening who might not know Insteon, they're a company that's been around doing the smart home thing for a long, long time. I mean, they've been in the business for quite a while, and it's a platform that's really geared towards, in my opinion, or has, I guess, traditionally been geared towards sort of hobbyists and people who are really passionate about smart home automation technology, and kind of wanted to buy this technology themselves and really spend time tinkering and programming and getting things, to talk to each other kind of before this technology became so ubiquitous like it is now.
Yeah, and Insteon, I think mostly I identify it as like the lighting control stuff that came after, that basically replaced XM, because XM kind of, or XM, X11, what is it, X1? X10, that's what it was.
Yeah.
See, I can't even remember what it was so bad. But, I mean, if anybody has had any kind of, I mean, I had some back years and years ago, kind of one of the I guess, inductions into early home automation was to own one of those X10 remote switches or dimmers or something like that, and set up some kind of like remote switching of lights, and how cool that was. But it never really worked all that well. It was like a RF based frequency thing that could have interference, and I don't know. I never could get it to work right. I actually had one in like college, where, like, I had a little light switch by my door and could kick on some lights in the dorm, that kind of thing. But never really further than that, because it was kind of unreliable. So,
and that was all X10.
Yeah, and then I guess Insteon kind of like basically just took over that market, because they were they came out with a better product.
Yeah, I think if I remember the story correctly, it actually Insteon was kind of born out of that frustration that you're vocalizing with X10.
Yeah, yeah, and they have like this cool like protocol that will it's kind of like a Zigbee or Z-Wave, which are the two mesh networks that you hear about these days. But from what I understand, I don't have really any hands-on experience with it, but people that use it really love it. It creates a network in itself, and each device will kind of route the command signals around. But if one of them goes down or there's a problem, the devices can figure out how to route the signals around. So it's got a self-healing network, and from what I understand, it doesn't need a centralized processor, kind of like Zigbee and Z-Wave do.
I don't know. I'm actually I'm with you. I don't have any direct experience with it really. It's not a product that, I don't know if there's nobody out there, but I don't know any professional integrators who install it. I'm not really sure, but I thought that there's some sort of server software that you have to run on your local network. That much I do know. But I'm not really too familiar with the architecture of it.
Yeah, I guess, I'm not either, so I could be speaking out of turn in thinking of something completely different, but I know it's kind of along the same lines of, it's a very mature product and has a lot of supporters behind it, and it's actually the one that you can go into Best Buy and buy, it's I kind of walked in the other day and it's like, holy cow, look at all this cool stuff, this is here now, so. Yeah,
it's like you said, it's been out for a while, and for people who, are considering a home automation system and maybe are inclined to tinker and play around with the technology, I think Insteon is probably a great fit. So this was an interesting story because it looks like Microsoft is actually going to be selling Insteon's hardware in all of their Microsoft stores.
Yeah, and they have a little home automation system that looks eerily similar to the Windows 8 interface that everyone hates, but I think I think it works really well for this. Actually, I think having all those squares on there, and one of them's a camera, and you click on it, and you can see the cameras and do that kind of thing. I think it works really well for this.
Yeah, and there's a video on the CE Pro help break the story. They were one of the sites to break the story, anyways, and they have a video on there that shows the Windows tablet interface into Insteon, and we'll post a link to that in the show notes at HomeTech.fm. It does actually look really cool. The tile concept actually, I think, is a great fit for home automation.
Yeah, me too. It's simple. It's pretty intuitive. And millions of people have seen Windows 8 by this point, and kind of understand, I suppose, how it works, even though it's completely frustrating to use on the computer. I think for this, it works really well.
Right. Yeah, and this is obviously a Windows Microsoft deal. I don't know. Do you have any idea with Insteon? If you're just not into the Windows, 8.1, you're not into a Windows tablet guy, what about iOS and Android? Do you have any idea? If you're an iOS guy and you're looking at Insteon, is there any tie in there? I don't even know if they have an iOS app. I'm assuming they probably do, but
yeah, I think they do. I think they have their own little hubs. Everybody has their hubs these days. And those hubs, whether it's Insteon or I want to say Revolve can talk to Insteon too.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, as long as you have a bridge of some sort into their network, you can communicate with their lights, and then whatever bridge you have may have an app associated with it.
Right. All right. Well, yeah, there's another story I saw. Home security giant ADT looks like they're kind of branching out of just the straight security market, and they recently acquired a company out of San Francisco called Life 360 for $25 million. So a pretty big play for them, and it definitely looks like an interesting move. Life 360, for people who might not know, is it's sort of like a location sharing app, but the idea behind it is that you excuse me, it's kind of secure. So you create circles within the app, for your family and friends, and then you can check in, you can do group chats, and you can just kind of a way to keep tabs on where people in your family are, and that's kind of the play for ADT.
Yeah, it's not chump change, 25 million, but I think ADT's extremely large. So I think that this is a pretty big investment by most respects, but I think it's kind of, I don't know, an acquisition that's kind of small on ADD's part. But it does look interesting, and it brings in I'm not sure what they're going to do with it. I'm not really sure. Maybe they're going to integrate it with some kind of security service.
Yeah, well, actually, it looked to me like they're planning Life 360 and ADT are going to team up and create like a joint mobile app. I think I read later this summer is the plan. So, I don't know what exact shape that's going to take, obviously, and I'm sure they're even on the inside are still working out, the exact details behind that and how that's going to look and what exactly it's going to do. But, I think it makes sense. Like home automation for a lot of people, the entry point is kind of security. Like that's a really common use case that people are drawn into home automation by. And so this is just sort of a nice little, a nice little bow for them to put on their ADT system to kind of have this slick technology that sort of ties into an ADT kind of branded solution where you can kind of just have that peace of mind of maybe knowing where your kids are, when they got home from school, that sort of thing.
Yeah. I guess that makes sense. Everything's kind of going to that, location aware. I guess context. We talked about the contextual operating systems before, like what you're doing and how that affects things around you, how that affects the internet of things around you. And this may just be kind of their introduction into that, I suppose. And they've got a large customer base, so it will bring it. There'll be quite a few installs that have this, so it may be something cool to look in later on.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree.
Well, and another cool product that came out this week, DropCam, which is we talked about them, I think last week. Talked about how or maybe a week before, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
These weeks are running together right now. But we did talk about them recently, and they've released a new product called Tabs. And basically the idea is that you can keep tabs on what's around you.
So it's kind of a little location awareness deal. It's hard to tell from the website how big exactly these things are, but they looks like about, I don't know, maybe about the size of like a stick of gum.
Looks like the Apple TV remote.
That too. So that's kind of the form factor, and that's what it looks like. And the idea is that you just kind of stick these on maybe a window or a door or who knows, like a briefcase or a computer or something, and you can kind of, I guess, set up alerts to kind of monitor when things are happening. And it's an interesting play for DropCam because really DropCam is it's a camera. Like that was their offering. It was a simple little camera that you plug in to power, it jumps on the Wi-Fi, and it gives you home monitoring. Basically, you can watch the video, what's going on in your house, like from anywhere, very simply. And so this is definitely them branching out. It's not a direct tie-in to the camera, but it kind of gets them into the world of home monitoring, more almost like a smart things almost. You know what I mean?
Yeah, or like a basic security system, or I mean, this kind of would give them access to things that happen outside of the camera's view. You set up a camera maybe in the main part of your house or in the living room,
mm-hmm.
and then you probably can't see the kitchen door or something from that. So you'd put one of these sensors on the kitchen door, and then when it opens, maybe the camera just starts recording or sends you a picture of what's going on.
Right.
I don't know.
Like if you've got kids, you like place it on top of the cookie jar, and then there you go, you're protected.
Yeah, there's a cool thing. There's two cool things that I thought about that I thought while watching. There's a cringeworthy video. Speaking of kids, on their website that we'll link to in the show notes. There's the girl she's using like a MacBook Pro or something, and then she takes one of these things and like sticks it right onto the top of the MacBook Pro. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so bad. But whatever, marketing.
Yeah, exactly.
But one thing I noticed is that the sensors, you stick them on the door, but there's no magnet on the other side. You know how you have standard security contacts? They'll have the contact, and then they'll have a little magnet on the other side to kind of sense. It's a read sensor inside of there. These look like they operate somehow without having to have that alignment done. So you just stick it on the door and it can tell when the door's open or closed, which I thought was really cool. Maybe it's
I
using
think so. It's just kind of using motion, I guess, to trigger it as opposed to like a magnet with a traditional contact.
Yeah, exactly. Which, I mean, that's kind of cool. And then the other thing I noticed was that these are BTLE, so they're Bluetooth Low Energy devices.
Oh, right.
So they're using some kind of built-in Bluetooth network because they have I guess 100-foot range on them, which is kind of small. So I mean, but I think that's probably their target market. It's not going to be a McMansion with 17,000 square foot home. It's going to be the 500 to 1,000 foot square foot apartment or house, and sensor's not going to be outside of that range at any point. So.
Yeah, exactly. It looks like it requires a Dropcam Pro. So I don't know, the BTLE or the Bluetooth in there, I suppose, is communicating with the Dropcam Pro, maybe, and that's where the information's getting sent up to the cloud. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, that's what it looked like to me. So I thought it was pretty cool that we're finally seeing some of these BTLE home automation devices kind of hit the market, and sensors, of course, would be kind of the first things that you would see, and this is a very good example of them. So
yeah, and they go for $29, selling them right on their website. So really cheap, really simple to set up. It looks like a cool little solution if you just want to set up some really simple home monitoring.
Yeah, I mean, or even for like a vacation home or something, if you had like a second home, had an internet connection, you wanted to see what was going on out there.
Right.
I can think of a beach house that I frequented, and that I'm really glad they didn't have one of those when I was in high school.
Enough said. Nice. Well, yeah. So a big ruling came down today in the net neutrality case, and a lot of people are up in arms about this one.
Yeah, this is pretty big news, and I think our tie-in here with home tech is that all of these things that we've talked about today are going to tie in or do tie into the internet, and with the FCC basically saying they're going to make the internet kind of a tiered program. This net neutrality thing that you hear it's a horribly boring subject matter. I mean, it's laws and how things are applied and policy and this, that, and the other. But basically, what they're going to do is tier off the internet, kind of like you have your cable bill. So you have your basic services, and then you pay more for the HBOs and the better cable channels that you want. So they're going to apply that. It looks like they want to apply that to the internet, and they're going to apply it to the customers that use the most bandwidth, like the Netflixes, the Hulus, the Amazons that are using for streaming video and streaming audio services.
Yeah, exactly. So they're basically, the argument is whether or not the internet service providers like Time Warner and Comcast, do they have the right to kind of dictate who gets what in terms of bandwidth if they're sending data basically through their pipes. And from the ISP's perspective, it's tough because you have companies like Netflix, where I've heard statistics as high as like 30% of ISP's bandwidth at peak times can be being used literally by Netflix, which is insane if you think about it. I mean, the amount of data that Netflix is sending out across these ISP's networks it's mind-boggling, really. And so the ISPs want the right to basically be able to turn to a company like Netflix. And you've actually already seen this where Netflix recently agreed to pay, I believe it was Comcast, extra money basically to ensure better service for their customers. And so that kind of is setting a dangerous precedent, because what's going to end up happening, at least opponents of this ruling argue, is that, like you said, you're going to get a tiered internet, and you're going to end up having essentially to pay more for services like Netflix and possibly any of these IoT devices that we're talking about too. I mean, this could kind of create a real mess in terms of how ISPs are able to charge for their networks.
Yeah, I mean, you could look at your cable bill and or look at the options that you have, for a cable subscription, and just kind of think about all of the neat services that you may be able to, how they're going to break that down. I'm sure they're just drooling over it. And the fact of the matter is, it doesn't cost them any more. I mean, if this was all done right from the beginning, it wouldn't cost them any more to ship the data from Netflix to you, because you're paying them for access to the internet at a specific speed, and you're paying access for all of the internet, not just some of it. You're paying
right.
That's the deal. And they've built out these broadband networks on taxpayer dollars, pretty much, and then they've stopped and made up excuses on why they can't do it anymore because they're out of money. Yet they make money and are publicly traded companies. So
yeah, hand over fist.
Exactly. So I mean, there's absolutely no incentive for them to make their networks better. And another fact of the matter is, we in the United States have possibly the worst broadband connections and pricing in the world. If you look at some of the other countries that regulate these internet providers as common carriers, you see that they have gigabit internet for maybe $20 a month, $30 a month, $40 a month. Very inexpensive pricing and very, very, very high speeds. And gigabit internet is kind of, you hear Google moving into these cities offering Google Fiber.
Right.
They're doing that for competition reasons. But if everyone could get these speeds through their doors, and there's really no reason they can't, technically, if we could have all sorts of players in the market offering internet services like they do overseas. And, it's one of those things that we've got some time right now to talk. They voted on this today, so we've got 120 days from now in September to make some public comment. So we'll link some stuff in the show notes and go over and speak your mind about it. That's what they're going to do. So
yeah, it's a big deal. I mean, it's like you said, it's kind of a boring topic, and your eyes can kind of sort of gloss over real quickly when you start reading about it, because there's there's just, anytime you get this amount of lawyers and lobbyists and all these big parties involved, it's easy to get in the weeds. But the takeaway is that basically what you've got is ISPs wanting to dictate, what parts, like you said, what parts of the internet you get access to at what speeds. And on the other side of that argument, you've got people who they want to spend X amount of dollars per month. They want to get a certain speed connection, and then they just want access to all of the internet, and they want to use it the way they want to use it. So it's an interesting debate, and it's an ongoing one. So like you said, I mean, people can speak up, and now is people's chance to do that.
Yeah, and I think I would probably have different feelings on this if the services that are provided were any measurable amount better than they are now. And the fact is they just aren't. There's horrible customer service provided by these monopolies, these legal monopolies that offer these services to us. And they have no incentive to get better because they own the area, they own the wires, they own everything. And that I don't think that's right. So,
yep.
Go speak your mind. That's my opinion. I'm sticking to it.
I agree. All right. Well, let's move into kind of our feature section for the show. As I teased at the beginning, we're going to actually talk a little bit about what differentiates the current offerings from companies like, say, Revolve or SmartThings, where you have these sort of do-it-yourself home automation platforms, and they're extremely inexpensive and very simple to set up. And then people look at integrators, professional integrators, guys like you and me in our industry, and they see, maybe go out and get a quote from an integrator, and they see a price come in that's like, could be tens of thousands of dollars or even more. I work on jobs that are literally like, some of them are $500,000 and up. And so people, it boggles their mind a little bit. And I think it's a sort of a subject of confusion for people. Like, why is there such a difference? And what am I getting with this professionally installed system that I can't get with a system like Revolve or SmartThings?
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of confusion out there for some reason about what professional integrators can bring to the table and what services they offer and what they're exactly going to do. Because, if I think about it, it's not really hard to set up a TV these days. And for some people, that's probably the case, but for most people, it is kind of tough, and that's why they have the cable provider come in and drop their cable box off and, maybe activate it before they leave and, make the connection, at least get a picture on the screen. And, hopefully they're happy with that. But, there's an integrated experience that integrators provide, that I think is very tough for people to, I don't know, completely wrap their heads around and really understand like what the total experience is. So I hope we can help out with this conversation, because there just seems to like a lot of confusion out there. The other things that I listen to, other podcasts that I listen to, or even people I hear talking, on a day-to-day basis. It's like a strange territory that people get into here when they talk about home automation and electronics.
Yeah. It's stressful for people, who are building a home, or maybe remodeling, or maybe not even either, but they just have an existing home and they want to integrate technology into it. It's extremely stressful because there's so many different ways you can go with it, and there's tons of information out there about it, but it's hard to decipher, what's noise and what's helpful. And it actually calls to mind, give you a quick plug here, Seth, our very own Seth Johnson, actually went on the Smart Home Show, which is another one of the shows listed over at technology.fm. And the host of that show, Michael Wolf, has a friend by the name of Aaron, who's actually in that exact position. Aaron is, I don't remember if he's building a new home or if he's remodeling an existing one, but either way, he's shopping around, right? He's looking for home automation. He wants to bring it into his life, and he's got a bunch of different ways he can go with it. He's you can tell it's a stressful decision for him. So Seth and Michael actually did an episode over on technology.fm on the Smart Home Show called Smart Home Therapy. And we'll actually push that into our iTunes feed as well as kind of a special feature, so people can check that out and listen to it. It was a really interesting episode, but it kind of prompted us to want to focus some attention on that for an episode of our own, so we can kind of explain and dive a little deeper into what differentiates the systems that you might hire a guy like me or Seth to come out and install versus something you can go and just do yourself.
Right. And, talking with him, and I mean, it really wasn't that bad for me, because I think that's the conversation that we have on a daily basis, right? With maybe not just one person, but maybe multiple people. Mm-hmm. And it's our job to do that kind of that coaching. And, like, we've been here, we've done this. This may be the third receiver I'm installing this week, not the third one I've, bought in my lifetime.
Right.
So, yeah. I mean, it's definitely a daunting issue, I think, right now with all the information. And even from my perspective, I think that, what we have in our own little industry, I mean, we have a show in September that comes up every year that we all, flock to. And, it's a trade show full of home automation companies and things that are geared specific for our channel.
And that's
and those can be, and that's Cedia. And those, that can be, daunting to go to.
Yeah. So like, even when you're within the realm of like, okay, I've decided I want to go with a professionally installed system. Well, even if you make that decision, then you can go shop 3 or 4 integrators, and they're going to propose maybe solutions from 2 or 3 different manufacturers, and your pricing could vary by as much as, who knows, 50, 60, 70%, depending on, the way that they understood what you were saying as, what you wanted. That can be interpreted a lot of different ways. So it's a scary decision, and people, we see it all the time. They get multiple bids, and the bids are, one of them, one integrator might come in. One integrator might come in and say, we could do it for $50,000, and another integrator might come in and say, this is going to cost you probably like $110,000, and people are just like, what is going on? Like, they don't know why they're so different, and it's very, that's a very stressful process. So
then they take the guy that bid it at $18,000, and and at the end of the day, like, nothing works,
Yeah, and more often than not, it's a case of just completely different scopes. Like, they don't include the same things. It's just simply not an apples to apples comparison, and most people don't know enough about this technology to be able to decipher that.
Yeah, and I think you can have different ideas and brought up in different conversations with each integrator. Because some integrator may have kind of a specialty twist on what they do. Because let's face it, there are no standards in our industry. I mean, there's no standards at all. I mean, speaker wire, we run to speakers, but that's about it. HDMI cables. I hope we're all using that these days. But other than that, there's no standard on what each integrator will do. And you could have them selling the same automation system have just wildly different price. I get bids from other companies, in the area, or our specialty for the last couple of years has been walking into homes that, and it is to this day, walking into homes that have already been set up, and we're kind of the cleanup crew type thing. So,
so that's a little bit of a tangent, but not really. And I think that actually might make for an interesting future episode where we could talk exclusively about if you are set on using a professional. We did an episode recently about how to hire a pro, but we could almost do a whole episode just talking about how do you get your pro to zero in on the scope, and how do you get the closest apples to apples comparisons across multiple integrators.
Yeah, that's definitely tough.
That's kind of a separate conversation. But for now, okay, so we're talking about what differentiates them, and we know that it's even if you pick a professionally installed system, there's still a lot of differentiators. But in general, I think we should talk about let's just paint with broad strokes here and talk about a professionally integrated system versus a pure DIY solution. What's the first thing that comes to mind that differentiates those two?
I mean, pretty much AV, I guess, because, well, I don't know. I guess the integrated solution, right? When I say AV, I mean kind of everything brought together under one app and one, everything controlled from one location, like a remote or an app or a screen or something like that.
Right, right. So if you're looking at a platform like SmartThings, for instance, what you're getting is a home automation hub. The vast majority of what that product is going to do for you, at least in its current iteration, is essentially home monitoring. They do have a tie-in with Sonos, which is a distributed audio system, and that's really cool. You can do control of your Sonos system right through that SmartThings app. But in general, most of that functionality is geared towards things that are almost like a home security feature set, where you're talking about things like monitoring, cameras, and then climate control, thermostats, things of that nature. When you get into a fully integrated system installed by a professional, what you're talking about is a whole nother level, because what that integrator is going to come in and do is tie everything, as much stuff in your house as you want tied into this centralized system. He can do it. So now you're talking about your audio visual components. If you've got a family room with a surround sound system, that's all going to be tied into that one native control app. Climate control, lighting control, shades, all of that can all be brought in under one unified app. So that unification into one app is something that companies like SmartThings and Revolve are trying to do. But once you get to that audio visual, your home entertainment systems, that's kind of a pretty clear line between companies like that and a professionally installed system from a manufacturer like Control4, Crestron, or Savant.
Right. And I mean, SmartThings isn't going to eliminate, at this point, I'm no doubt in my mind that they're planning something in the future, I'm sure. But they're not going to eliminate those extra remotes you have on the coffee table, Those
exactly.
That's the tough part. And then whatever you find, say you got a Harmony remote, that's going to be a separate system than your SmartThings now. So not that it necessarily has to be, but it definitely does work better when it's all tied in together from my experience.
Yeah, no, that's just the thing. It really depends on the particular individual and what they want. If they're really after that integrated experience where everything is just under one app, then you're going to really have to go with a professionally installed system. But for a lot of people, that's just not worth the investment to them, and that's fine. And for them, these things like the do-it-yourself solutions that they can bring into their house for very inexpensive, install them themselves, and have some basic home automation up and going for a tiny fraction of the cost of a professionally installed system, it's awesome. Like, that's great. It just, people need to understand that they're two totally different animals. And like you said, the smart things, the Revolves, those guys, they're not going to replace the remote for your entertainment center. And arguably, that's the thing that you're going to interact with more than any other piece of technology in your home. Granted, yeah, there's going to be some people who aren't big TV watchers or, what have you. But for the most part, most of our clients, they use their TVs like more than anything else. And so the ability for us to bring all of those AV components together under one unified control is important, and it makes a big difference.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think, I think you and I agree that, and it's pretty much why we started the show, is that the future looks like, the near future looks like, all the AV products that we have as professional integrators are going to be migrating towards the do-it-yourself crowd, and I guess should I say, and the do-it-yourself stuff is going to be elevated up. So there's going to be some kind of middle ground here in the near future that all this stuff plays really well together in, and hopefully the prices of our equipment and whatnot will come down and meet that. And then, I'm sure that there will be price increases for the do-it-yourself stuff too, for this added functionality, because AV is pretty tough right now, and who knows. But yeah, I think that you and I started this because we kind of have that one eye on the future of the new products and everything. But yeah, that said, when that happens, there's something you're still going to be paying for. You're still going to be paying for the labor for somebody to come in and set this all up for you, if you were to need that.
Yeah, and I think, a little bit of insider baseball for people who obviously would have no reason to know, inside of our industry right now, that it's a big conversation that's going on, at least with, the majority of people, because they're the ones paying attention. Integrators right now are looking at this technology, and some of them are looking at it as a threat, of course, but others, like you and me, we're looking at it as just, it's not a threat. It's not necessarily an opportunity for everyone, but it's somewhere in the middle. It just is. And this is where the market is going. And for certain people, it's a great fit. And for others, it's not. But, the point I wanted to make is that you are going to see integrators increasingly moving over, I think, to a more like managed service provider pricing model, in the sense that, like, you might go to an integrator in the future who will say, I'll be your service guy, and for X amount of dollars per month, like, I will come over and help you with any of this do-it-yourself home automation stuff that you need help with. And you're basically paying for his expertise, his service, and his labor. So the cost on the equipment is going to continue to come down. And with that, you're going to see a shifting in sort of the business model of your traditional systems integrator. This reminds
me so much of the computer industry. It's scary. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's we're falling right in the same footsteps every single day. So I mean, you went from computers costing thousands of well, I guess they still cost thousands of dollars, but lots of money, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 for a computer that now it's come down to $800. That would blow that old computer out of the water 10 times over. And you know what? You can get that, and you may still need somebody to help you out setting it all up and configuring everything the way you want it. I think we're looking at a similar business model in the future for home automation, right?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely going to be the big guys, the big players out there, just like there are in the computer industry, that will set up the mega mansions and the mega homes and the mega businesses and do those big jobs, and there'll be specialized equipment dedicated for them, just like there is in the computer industry. But the home, you could use that equipment in your home if you wanted, mm-hmm. Or you could go buy some off the shelf stuff and have somebody set it up for you.
Yeah, and it brings to mind the point that, like, one way or another, whichever way you go, it's a lot of work to set this stuff up, unless you're going like bare bones, just simple, Revolve in your house and a few things tying into it, and then you're done. But let's assume, like, if you want to go with any sort of sizable installation, maybe you want like in-ceiling speakers in a number of your rooms for some background music, you want some TVs hung on the wall, all that sort of thing. that all just takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. And the fact of the matter is, like, paying for a professionally integrated system, part of what you're paying for, a large part of it is just the labor costs. I mean, it's a very labor intensive industry. And for us, that's what we do. We do it every day. We're going to get it done way more efficiently than somebody who's not trained in this craft or this trade. But even then, it's still very difficult. It takes a lot of time. And so a lot of the costs that you're seeing in these systems isn't just the equipment, but it's also the fact that, integrators, like, this is what they do for a living, and it takes a long time. And so they're charging for that labor.
Right. And I've even experienced this in my own house. When we first bought it, I'm like, oh, great, I get to do all this cool stuff. I get to wire for video distribution. I can pull all these speaker wires and everything. Because the house I moved into, I mean, this thing's built in 1958, so it didn't have a single cable line in it. I found a bunch of 300 ohm antenna wire, and tossed around in the attic. That's about it. There were no phone lines, no TV lines, nothing. I mean, this is standard Florida home. So I went around and said, okay, I'm going to do all this myself. I, bought some wire from work, got up in the attic, and nearly killed myself trying to get this thing done. And, at the same time, my wife is like, hey, we've got to paint the walls. You got to do that too.
Right.
So,
exactly.
It definitely would have helped to have, maybe 3 of the guys at work that were way better at doing that type of work than I was come in and just knock it out in a couple hours. Mm-hmm. And I would have saved, a huge headache and not almost killed myself in the attic. I should say that our attics out here, they're like crawl spaces. They're not like big. Like, you have maybe 2 foot to squeeze through, and it's all this rock wool stuff. It's really nasty to be in anyway.
Yeah.
So shouldn't have done that in May. Should not do it in May.
I was going to say, and I'm sure it was very, nice and cool and breezy up there as well.
Never in Florida. Never.
So, and that just illustrates the point. I mean, you're somebody who does this every day, and it's still, you dive in, and my assumption is at the outset of this, you were looking at your house and going, all right, this is going to be fun. It's like a blank canvas, and you're like excited to jump into it. And then you start doing it, and you're like, holy cow, this is a lot of work. And if you hire somebody, they'll come in, they'll send a crew over there, and they'll just knock it out, and they'll knock it out quicker than you could ever hope to do it on your own. So that's, it sounds obvious, right? But it's, I think, worth stating that is part of the cost. That is part of what you're paying for, is just simply that convenience of having somebody else to take care of it for you, and, to troubleshoot things when they go wrong, as they invariably do. And so it's just nice to kind of have that, have that backup and that support.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I mean, I can tell you that even like building a small rack for my house, I mean, that took 4 or 5 hours of my time on like a Sunday, trying to put everything together. And you just don't even think about it. You don't have all the stuff that you have that a professional would have. And like, I was just at my house. I brought all this stuff home. I thought I had everything. I'm missing half the stuff I need. I've got to go buy it from work, and come back home. These guys, they come in, they're ready. Professional will come in, they're ready to go. They have all the parts and pieces they need. They have 3 or 4, other guys working on the job at the same time. A thing like putting out, landscape speakers, that's a huge amount of time and labor and everything that, I don't want to dig around trenches and everything in my backyard to put in landscaping speakers. I mean, but that's got to be done. And,
right.
It's a time. So whatever your time's worth, just kind of measure that against how long some of this stuff's going to take. And I guess a lot of people just really don't realize how much effort goes into putting some of this stuff together. Yeah.
And that's the tough thing about our trade, as opposed to a trade that's like, I don't know, painting, for instance. Like, a painter's going to come in and paint your house, and then, other than maybe coming back a couple times to do a little touch-up work because the mover's knocked into the walls or something, they're pretty much done, right? Like, the walls are painted, they're done, they're out of there. But with AV and home technology in general, something is always breaking. Like, there's just so many moving parts that you really just have to understand going into it that is just part of the deal. And it doesn't matter if you do it yourself or you hire the worst company in town or the best company in town. There will be problems with your system, I assure you. And so You just have to accept that and understand that when an integrator gives you a price for a system, part of what he's pricing in is that cost of doing business, because to us, that's what it is. It's just a cost of doing business. And so we have to price the fact in that, like, we're going to be married to this system for years, and we're going to be coming in and out, fixing it when things go wrong, updating it when you want to update it, and that sort of stuff. And just that ongoing service and support it's just part of the game. It's just part of the deal.
Yeah, and Murphy's Law says that the system will go down either right before you're going to have a big party, or most of the times when you are out of town and your spouse is at home, who doesn't know anything about what you like to do.
Exactly.
And your system will all of a sudden not be working. And that's never a good thing. I speak from experience.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it's just that curse of, like, you know, the Super Bowl party and nothing is working and people are going to be over there in an hour. And if you're, you know, planning to maybe turn on the game in your media room and then pipe the audio around the house through the speakers, and that's really a big part of your deal, right? That's part of the ambiance that's important to you. And then you go to do it and it doesn't work. And if it's something you did yourself, you're going to have to figure it out. But if you've got a professional integrator, you know, you've got basically somebody to call and yell at. So, you know, that's what we're here for. That's what we do. We do this stuff every day. And so it's just paying for that level of support and service that it's just one of the differentiators. Yeah, no, definitely. And I don't know about you, but we probably get a handful of those calls every year, you know, around game season, you know, that, oh, the big game's coming on. I know this TV hasn't been working for a couple of months, and I need to get a new one. Can you get it out here on Saturday? Yeah.
Question mark.
They give you like the nice 24-hour heads up or something. Yeah,
exactly.
So anyways, I think we kind of touched on everything that I wanted to touch on. Did you have anything more that you wanted to add to that conversation?
No. I think it's a good talk. I think there's a lot more we could kind of bring out of that conversation, like you said earlier, on you know, kind of if you're hiring or looking to hire an integrator, how you can figure out, you know, how to nail down that scope, where when you go and request different proposals from different companies, they may not use the same equipment, but at least you know the delivery of the final system will be the same, you know? Exactly.
Yeah, I think we should do that. I think it would make for an interesting episode. So basically we're talking about, like you said, drilling down on the scope, and as an end user, as a homeowner, somebody shopping, like, you don't necessarily really care like what the model number is of every little piece that goes into the rack, right? Like, that's not your concern. If you're hiring somebody, that's what you're paying them to figure out. What you want to know is that the overall performance and feature set that you're paying for is the same, apples to apples, across your multiple bids. And with home technology, that is an immensely difficult thing to accomplish.
Yep, no doubt, exactly. And it's even with the different bids, you're going to have pros and cons of each individual choice that the integrator makes on each individual product. So, I mean, that's where I think the major amount of confusion comes in. But I think if you have a set, we can definitely have a whole show on this, having, you know, a set scope. This is what I want to minimally get out of my system. And you pick the system that can do that. I think you know, you'll be happy. So
yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, hope people enjoyed the show, took something away from it, learned a little bit. Definitely, if you did, come by the website at HomeTech.fm. Stop by, leave us a comment, let us know how we're doing. We would really appreciate it. Also, you know, don't hesitate to leave a comment and let us know if there are episodes that you would like to hear as a listener. If there's a particular issue that you're facing with home automation, or a decision that you're trying to make, that's what we're here for. We're here to help, and we want to be useful to people, be a useful resource. So definitely stop by the website, leave us a comment, or, you know, you can come by and check us, hit us up on Twitter at HomeTech Podcast.
Yep, definitely. And Jason, where can they find you exactly on Twitter?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at Jason Griffing, and there's a G at the end.
Yeah, and I'm at Seth P. Johnson.
All right, Seth. Well, it was great chatting with you. I will talk to you again soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, Jason.
Take care.